Hi guys, and welcome to my newest video. Since so many of you seem to love my 10 lessons I learned as an exchange student in the USA video, I decided why not make a part 2 and give you even more lessons so you can learn from the mistakes I made when I was an exchange student in the US. So on top of the last 10 mistakes that I made and the lessons I learned from that in my last video, which I highly recommend you check out, today I'm going to give you 10 more in order to prepare you even better for your exchange year that is hopefully coming up soon in the future in the USA or anywhere else in the world. Most of these tips will be applicable to any other place in the world as well. So without further ado, let's get right on into this video. The first lesson I would say I learned right at the beginning of my exchange year is to not be too picky about your placement. I know that when you are in your home country and you're looking to spend a year in the US, it seems most exciting to maybe spend your year in California, for example, or in states like New York or Washington DC or anywhere that's quite famous. And I was no exception from that as well. I mean, I would have been super happy if I had ended up staying in California, but it turns out that I actually found a host family in Texas, which is probably one of the states I wasn't really looking to go to just because I didn't know a lot about it, and everything I knew like from the news and everything was that it was pretty conservative and that it was quite rural. And I feel like a lot of exchange students would like to be in somewhat of a bigger city because obviously there are like more entertainment opportunities, there's going to be public transportation, schools are going to be bigger and are going to be offering more classes, so that is technically what a lot of people want. But I actually went to a really small town in northern Texas and I had the best time. So I know that a lot of exchange organizations will let you actually pick 1 or 2 states that you want to go to. I would definitely recommend not doing that just because you can have the best and greatest time of your life anywhere in the country you're going to. Do not, prevent yourself from potentially finding an amazing family that does not live in maybe California, but maybe you will find an amazing family somewhere in Idaho or anywhere that you never thought of going before. And I actually think it's much nicer and much more useful experience if you are going somewhere that you would never think to go to on holiday, for example, because you're going to get to know a place that not many people get to know as well as you will, and you can have a great time anywhere. My lesson number 2 is that before you go to high school for the first time, learn the national anthem of the country you're going to. And if you are going to the United States, it also makes sense for you to not only learn the national anthem, but also to learn the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States as well as to your state flag. You are going to need this in school, and it is quite awkward if you're sitting there, in your seat and everybody is saying the pledges and you don't know any of the words to it. Similar situation, you're at a basketball game or a football game for the first time and you don't know any of the words to the national anthem that everybody is singing. It can be quite awkward. So if you can, memorize it beforehand before you even go to the school or to a football game, for example, for the first time. Also, another tip connected to that is to stand up when the national anthem is playing. I know that in the United States most people stand up and most people put their hands on their hearts. It was quite an awkward situation for me at first because I didn't know what to do, because I felt kind of awkward at first putting my hand on my heart and singing, another nation's national anthem, because obviously it wasn't my own. So it was a weird situation, but I just ended up standing up, putting my hand on my heart and singing along anyway, because for the time being it was my home. It was the country that, made sure I was safe and sheltered and had enough food, and the family I lived with for that time was, American, and it was a big part of their identity, and I think it helped that I showed my appreciation for the country in that moment. Obviously it's not ever going to be your national anthem unless you actually permanently move to the country, but it's just a sign of respect. And if you can, combine it with like your cultural identity, and if you find that you can do it, stand up just as a sign of respect. My lesson that I learned, number 3, is once you actually get to your host family's place, it is useful if you set up house rules and if you lay them out clearly, maybe even write them out. For me personally, my host family was quite relaxed. I didn't actually have too many rules, but if you have a family who is a bit more strict, it definitely makes sense to spell out the rules clearly so you know what is expected of you, and so that they make sure that you actually understand what they expect of you, so there is no conflict to start with. I know that a lot of families have rules when it comes to chores or curfews, for example, and I think it is so useful if those rules are laid out right from the start, because it just means that you're not going to have any misunderstandings or get into fights right away. So definitely, you know, start up that conversation, just ask them what their house rules are. I know that every single family, even though they might be super relaxed, has a sort of way that they like their household to run, and just, you know, things that are unspoken in their household but that you don't know about. So it's always useful to spell them out right away. Somewhat connected to that is my lesson number 4, and it is to talk it out. Whether it is with your host family, whether it is with friends, whether it is with anyone that you meet along your way during your exchange year, it is so useful whenever there are misunderstandings or open questions that you have, or even conflicts, to just talk it out. Don't let it eat you up from the inside. Don't let it, you know, simmer for too long. It's only going to get bigger. Just talk it out. I know it's super hard, especially because you're going to be so young. When I was, you know, in the US and I was 15, I was really scared to, you know, go up to my host parents and speak about stuff that bothered me, for example, or to speak to people in school that maybe said something that I perceived as rude or anything like that. But it is so important that you speak up for yourself, that you just let people know how certain things maybe made you feel, and that they do it vice versa. So just, you know, communicate with them. If there's ever anything that I do that even mildly upsets you, please come talk to me. Let's figure this out. It is going to help you out so much in the long run. My lesson number 5 is quite a fun one, but also I think something important to know, and something that I definitely did not expect. It is that boys will want you. If you are somewhat attractive, they will place bets on you. Everybody will try to get you. Boys will really try and get you to go out on a date with them. That's just something to expect. It is not something that I ever expected, because obviously you don't think of yourself as like super attractive and boys just like running towards you, but it is something that can definitely happen. So yeah, just be aware of that. Equally, if you're a guy or whatever, you know, your sexual orientation is, people will come up to you and, you know, want you, probably because you are super exciting and you're the hot new thing in town. Very much connected to that is my lesson number 6, and I want you to take this with a grain of salt, but my lesson would be not to date while you are abroad. I did end up dating someone at the end of the year, and I would not say that I regret it, but it does definitely come with a lot of potential for conflict and a lot of heartbreak, because you are going to have to leave, you know, at the end of the year. So there is a deadline to your relationship. Even if you start out dating them pretty much like after a few weeks or months, you're always going to know that heartbreak is going to come up, unless you're maybe 18 and you're even able to stay in the country. But it is just going to make things very complicated. You are going to probably experience heartbreak, and sometimes, you know, host families don't like you to date anyone because, you know, they are responsible for you. They don't want you to get pregnant, for example, and they don't want you to get hurt. So it is making things a lot tougher and a lot more complicated if you do decide to date anyone. That being said, obviously, you know, you can't always control your feelings. Things might happen. So, you know, if you can rationally control it, I would probably advise you against dating, just because you might end up heartbroken in the end. My heart lesson that I learned, number 7, was that you are gonna run into a lot of vocab that you have never heard of before and never thought of before. I thought that my English was obviously not perfect. It still isn't perfect today, but I thought it was good enough, you know, to start my exchange year in the US. And then I actually got to my host family's place and to school, and I realized there was so much vocabulary that nobody ever thought to tell me in school. Starting with kitchen utensils. There were so many, you know, little utensils that you never learned the names of. And also in school, like when you come into the school, I started playing volleyball, for example, and there was just so much vocab around, you know, playing volleyball, the rules, just the whole setup of the game. I didn't know any of those, and it was so shocking to me, because I started studying English when I was in 3rd grade, so I had been studying for years and years and years before I went to the US, and I thought I was able to, you know, communicate, but then I just realized that just looking around and seeing all these things I didn't know the names to, that I still had so much to learn, which is amazing because it gives you so much potential to, you know, to increase, you know, your vocab massively. But just, you know, expect it. It was something I didn't expect, but just know that it's okay, and that you're gonna run into a lot of words that that you don't know, but you're gonna figure it out and just see it as potential for learning. My lesson number 8 is something that I also did not expect to happen, and it is that, especially in the beginning, your personality is going to change a lot. I think for me, it happened because I was super shy, because I was usually quite a social and popular person. Like, I always had friends around me. I never had issues, you know, making friends, and suddenly I was thrown into this high school that I didn't know anything or anyone in, and I got really, really shy, and I found myself getting really quiet and reluctant to speak to people and just quite shy. And I have one of my best friends still to this day, Hannah, and at the end of the year she was like, you turned out to be a completely different person from the person I met at the beginning, because at the beginning I really wasn't able to show my personality at all because I was so shy and kind of scared and just overwhelmed. And at the end she said that she really got to know my personality the way I am here in Germany as well. So just expect that your personality is kind of gonna be buried in the beginning, and you're gonna have to work a bit to bring it back out again and to make up the courage to actually let your personality shine through again. It is going to take some time and some work, but it's going to be okay, and it's just natural to be very shy in the beginning. My heart lesson number 9 that I learned, which actually happened to me a lot, was that people do mock your accent a lot. I cannot count the number of times that people made fun of my accent. Again, I thought, you know, my English wasn't the worst when I, you know, started my year in the USA. It definitely wasn't perfect, but people made fun of me so much, and it's to the point where you're saying a word and they're saying a word and you cannot hear the difference because your ears aren't trained to hear the difference, because it isn't your first language, and people are making fun of you for it, but you are unable to change it because it's slight nuances in your head, but it's like a massive difference in theirs, because obviously that's their first language. It is hard because you are trying so hard to, you know, get the language right, but you are unable to, and it is going to take some time. So just give yourself time and grace and be patient and try not to get offended too much. Usually they actually think your accent is cute. They don't actually mean to be rude. It is going to hurt you because at that point in time all you want to do is fit in. So it is tough, but you know, just stick with it. Your English is going to get much better, or whichever language you're speaking in your target country. Just know that it is going to happen. People don't mean to be rude. It is just something they find really cute usually. My last lesson, number 10, is that you will be homesick. You will be homesick a lot, and you will be homesick in bad times. You will be homesick in the best of times. Even when you're having a good time, you will want to share this with your family at home, your friends at home, your loved ones generally at home, and you know, even then you can get homesick, even when you're having a smile on your face and you're really, really happy. And obviously when you're, you know, sad or something didn't go right, then you are going to be homesick as well. So just, you know, expect it to be normal, expect to be homesick. You know, most weeks there will be a point in time when you feel kind of down, you think about home, you might, you know, look at the calendar and count the days till, you know, you can go back home and see your loved ones again. But it is only phases, and at the beginning it's going to be more, but especially towards the end, I would say the second half of your year, and especially the last quarter, you are not going to feel as homesick. You will almost want time to move slower so that you can stay for longer, and just recognize that it is such a natural part of being away from anyone and everything you know. So, you know, just give yourself grace. It's normal, it's fine. It just means that you have a good life back home as well, which is exactly what you want, because that's what you're gonna return to at the end of the year. So it's natural. Every single exchange student is feeling it. I definitely felt it a lot, and it's okay. You are going to get through it if you want to. It's always good to talk to people about it, but if you can't, you know, that's fine too. A lot of people deal with it by themselves. You are going to be okay. So you guys, those were my 10 additional lessons that I learned when I was an exchange student in the USA. I hope that this video was as useful to you as my last video. I definitely recommend you check that out as well if you haven't already. If you would like to stay updated with more of my future content, please make sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you never miss out on any of my future videos. And other than that, I have nothing left to say but to thank you guys so much for taking your time out of your day to watch this video, support this channel and me. As always, if you have any other videos that you would like to see me do on exchange years or anything else, please leave them down in the comments below. I will be super happy to make any kind of videos that you're interested in and that could help you out. And that is it. until next time, see you guys soon. I love you. Bye.